Read them. This is a public hearing, and we are the Zoning Board of Adjustments for Putnam County, Florida. We operate under the authority of Articles 11 and 12 of the Land Development Code as amended. The primary responsibility of the board is to hear and decide appeals challenging final determinations made by the Planning and Development Services Department under the Land Development Code, and to hear and act upon requests for variances, special use permits, nonconforming use determinations, and preliminary development plans under the Land Development Code. A variance is a relaxation of the requirements of the zoning code in a particular case where, because of unusual circumstances, a literal enforcement of our zoning code would result in undue and unnecessary hardship. The zoning code permits us to authorize variances only for height, size of structure, size of yards, and open spaces. If we grant a variance, we may impose reasonable conditions on the use of the property, which must be satisfied if the variance is to remain valid. The standards we use in deciding whether or not to grant a variance are listed in Section 45-833 of the Land Development Code. A special use permit is special permission to use property in a fashion which the zoning classification of the property does not automatically permit. If we grant a special use permit, we may impose reasonable conditions on the use of the property, which must be satisfied if the special use permit is to remain valid. Unlike a change in the zoning classification, as a general rule, a special use permit applies only to the specific use requested in the application for a special use permit. The standards we use in deciding whether or not to grant a special use permit are listed in Section 45-1083 of the Land Development Code. Procedurally, we will call each case by name and number. A member of the staff will then briefly explain to us the nature of each request. We will then take any comments from the applicant or their representative, followed by any public comments concerning the request. Please direct all comments and statements to the board and not to other people in the audience. Before speaking, we will ask each person to be recognized, come forward to the lectern, and identify his or herself by name and address. After all persons wishing to speak have been heard, we will entertain a motion from the board. The motion will be voted on by board members and become our final order. Any decision made by this board can be appealed to the circuit court. However, any appeal must be filed within 30 days after the Board of Adjustments has rendered the final order which is being appealed. Are there any questions? Before the first case is heard today, all those wishing to speak need to be sworn in. So will the notary please administer the oath? Okay, before we hear the first case, our case is SUP 23-00002. I will ask for a ex parte communication roll call.
No.
Linda Osborne?
No.
Mary Ratliff?
No.
TJ Smith?
No.
Ron West?
No.
Roy Weaver?
No.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I begin today, I just wanted to make a statement. I know that there's some, contentious cases that we're going to be hearing today, and I just wanted to make sure that the audience was aware that this is merely the very first step, just to ensure that these property owners may have those development rights to move forward with their project. So based off of the outcome today's meeting, they're not going to immediately begin these projects. There's still several other checks and balances in the way of development review committee and permit issuance before we start seeing action on these sites. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up and hope to kind of answer some of those questions preemptively.
Thank you.
Moving on into special use permit SUP 23-0002. It's a little late, but for the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is an application for a borrow area in the agriculture zoning district. The applicant is V2W Enterprises, LLC. The agent for this request is Gulfstream Design Group, LLC. The location for this is the west side of County Road 309D, which is Barden Road, between Keystone Road and Odom Road. Both the future land use designation and the zoning district for this property is agriculture. The subject parcel is 419.37 acres in size. The borrow area will encompass 24.8, give or take, acres. The maximum depth of the borrow activities will be 60 feet. The parcel has direct access to Barden Road. Borrow activities will avoid areas of wetlands and include a 50-foot buffer between the borrow activities and the wetlands. The hours of operation will not exceed 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and the reclamation plan is an artificial pond. Based off of the background that we had with our pre-applicant meeting, it's a sod farm, and this pond is going to be used for irrigation purposes for that sod farm. But since the dirt will be leaving the site and not spread across the property, that is the purpose of the special use permit. Here you have an aerial map of the property in question, outlined in orange. The future land use, again, is agriculture. There is a little node of public facilities just northeast of the subject parcel in the borrow area site. There's some sort of commercial designation. It's kind of cut off on the screen southeast of the parcel. Here you have the zoning designations. So the subject parcel is agriculture. South, you've got a little residential too, a little public facilities as well, and some commercial. This map is showing the apparent wetlands based on the National Wetlands Inventory Mapper. The developer will be required to, work with DEP and St. Johns River Water Management if they're going to in any way disturb any of the wetlands. And the agent who is here may be able to touch base on what that permit process entails. So this PowerPoint just goes through each of the 10 independent criterias. Essentially, it was in the staff reports provided to you, but this criteria indicates that it is compatible with the zoning district and the comprehensive plan, the future land use designation. Again, compatible with the zoning district. This was the staff's analysis on how this development will not adversely impact or unduly restrict the enjoyment of permitted uses in the surrounding area. Again, which will be checked and regulated through the Development Review Committee and through a site work permit issuance. Again, talking about substantially diminishing or impairing surrounding property values. We're talking here about having adequate roads and on-site parking so that trucks can come and go. You've got adequate measures being taken to make sure ingress and egress onto Barden Road will not impact those who commonly use that right-of-way. It details the screening and buffering requirements proposed by the applicant. Criteria 8 is discussing signs and exterior lighting. Exterior lighting is not proposed. Signage is required to have trespass warning signs. Any sort of hazardous substances. The narrative provided by the applicant did not indicate any sort of hazardous substances, though there may be fuel storage on site for some of the equipment. And then any sort of adverse effects on the health, safety, public welfare of surrounding property owners. So just to run through this is some of the supplemental standards for borrow areas. This is something the applicant will be required to comply with. So borrow areas are not located or not to be located on parcels less than 5 acres in size. Again, this one's 420, give or take. There's certain permitting requirements that are outlined in LDC section 45-169C. The borrow area shall not exceed 30 acres. If so, it's treated as a mine. It also provides the hours of operation, which would be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Any Any borrow area that will affect environmentally sensitive areas shall comply with the comprehensive plan and the environmental protection standards outlined in 45-191C10. And no borrow application shall be accepted or approved without a reclamation plan, which shall include a requirement/commitment to complete reclamation within 12 months of the expiration of the permit or the closure of the borrow area operations, whichever comes first. And again, artificial ponds are an approved reclamation plan, and these applicants have provided us with that reclamation plan indicating the pond. Continued, the excavation of the borrow area shall be conducted in phases so as to expose the least amount of land as surface practical at any time. This will be reviewed during the DRC and the site work permit. And the permittee/property owner shall provide a form of security to provide assurance that reclamation of the site shall be completed in conformance with approved reclamation plan. Such financial guarantee shall be in an amount determined by the Director of Public Works upon review and approval of the reclamation plan. Again, DRC and site work permit. The conclusion for this request is the applicant has requested a special use permit to establish a 24.8 acre borrow area in the agriculture zoning district. The applicant is required to obtain a borrow area permit, site work permit, and satisfy all borrow area standards in the LDC. The proposed borrow area meets the criteria for the special use permit and will be required to meet all supplemental standards for a borrow area. Staff is recommending an approval of the request subject to the following conditions at least. Number one, the Development Review Committee shall review and approve the proposed borrow area before a site work permit will be issued. The applicant shall submit a concurrency assessment application and pay the associated review fee while the DRC is reviewing the proposed request. The applicant shall supply the Putnam Planning and Development Services Department with documentation from the St. Johns River Water Management District acknowledging the proposed development before obtaining a site work permit, and the applicant shall provide a form of surety defined in LDC Section 45169B8 for the reclamation of the site in an amount to be determined by the Public Works Director prior to the issuance of the site work permit. And as you know, the Zoning Board of Adjustment does have the ability to impose additional conditions that are, may be required for this development. Any questions?
Okay, any questions from staff? I have a question. When your staff analysis on your number 7, adequate screening and buffering, it does say that the screening shown on the site plan proposes a minimum buffer of 50 feet from Barden Road right-of-way. But how far into the property will the borrow pit be?
So when I was looking at the plan submitted, it's going to be in the northeast corner of that 428 acre parcel. I don't know exactly how far it is. Perhaps the agent can enlighten on that.
So the fence is going to be at least 6 feet high, so that it's going to be on the Barden Road past the right-of-way, 50 feet, right?
Yes, ma'am, that is one of the standards for borrow areas, is that there's a 6 foot fence, and then there's no trespass warning signs, a minimum of every 200 feet along the perimeter of the fencing. And then DRC, staff has the ability to allow those signs to be placed no more than 400 feet.
Okay, is the fence going to be of such material that you cannot see through it?
That I do not know.
Okay. I mean, a chain link fence, you can see a borrow pit if it's not covered. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Ratliff?
in the past, they've required not only just a fence, but some type of shrubbery. Is that not going to be required in this case?
So we'll have to look at it whenever it gets through to DRC. You're referring to the incompatibility buffer. What we'd have to do is first determine how intensive a use this borrow area is by referencing our incompatibility table within section 45513. I would assume, without looking at it, it's going to be a minimum 10-foot buffer requirement. With the 10-foot buffer, you either have a 6-foot privacy fence or you have shrubbery that is 6 foot tall at the time of planting to achieve an opacity of 75%.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Smith?
Number 4 on, actually, number 4 on here, the form of surety, that's a bond, right, basically?
Yes, sir, yeah, there's multiple types of bonds that we can accept.
So what, can you describe that a little bit? I mean, I've noticed on all of them, that's a lot of money for people to maybe be putting out potentially for their own property, just to, have a pond or whatever they're doing. So I was wanting to get a little bit of clarification on that.
Yeah, see, with, with reclamation plans, especially all those that we're hearing today, they're gonna be artificial ponds, and, how much does it cost to fill it with water?
Right.
That's gonna be the Public Works Director's responsibility to determine. And then there's several different types of bond. There's a letter of credit, cash, there's an irrevocable trust. I mean, there's, I wanna say 3 or 4 different types of bonds that they can submit.
Okay.
Will that bond, I have another question, will that bond be enforced all the time, and who will be making sure that that bond is what it's supposed to be?
So if the bond is collected, then we will hold that bond until the reclamation plan is complete. It'll either be 12 months from the completion of the dig, or 12 months from the expiration of the site work permit associated with the dig.
Okay, as in, you said as in we, as in the Putnam County?
The Public Works Director.
Public Works, okay.
Is there a way around them having to actually come up with cash for that?
There is, yeah. There's, like I said, there's a surety bond or an irrevocable letter of credit.
Okay,
So it doesn't have to be cash, but cash is an option.
okay.
Any other questions from staff? Mayor?
I have another question. And this may be asking too soon, but it states that there's going to be a maximum of 60 truck trips per day. Is that 30 trucks going in and out, or is that 60 trucks, meaning 120 going and coming?
The industry standard, when you hear of a trips per day, is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be 30 back and forths.
So it's not 60 trucks, it's 30 trucks.
Yes, ma'am. But you'll see them twice.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, before we proceed, let's do a site visit roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, the applicant, the agent is Gulfstream Designs Group, Matthew H., is it Lahti? Okay, would you come forward? For the record, please state your name and address.
Very sensitive. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Matt Lottie. I'm the engineer of record. My address is 2225 State Road A1A South, St. Augustine, Florida. We have a presentation here. I can maybe answer a couple of your questions right out of the
Okay.
gate. The borrow pit is approximately 1,417 feet from the edge of the right-of-way, and approximately 143 feet to the south of the nearest property line. So we proposed a 50-foot buffer at the minimum. On the east side, we're providing 1,417 feet. On the north side, we're providing 143 feet.
Just a moment. Is everyone in the audience being able to hear this gentleman, or does he need to speak more closely to the mic?
Is this better?
That's better.
Perfect. I can be loud.
Okay.
So here's our presentation. Again, Matt Lottie, Gulfstream Design Group. Staff's been amazing to work with. Honestly, I work in a lot of municipalities, and I must say that their attention to detail and their knowledge of the code is exceptional. Okay. So, quick table of contents here. You guys may be able to see that better than me, so I won't run through the individual components very well. As mentioned, this site is approximately 400 some acres. We are asking for approximately a 30-acre project area there. That 30-acre project area would encompass the borrow pit, the rim ditch, and the stilling basin. As mentioned, you can see here the orange approximate project boundary on that map. And as mentioned, Barden Road is approximately 1,400 feet to the east of that, so approximately a quarter mile inside the property. And we're about 140 feet south of the boundary line with the neighbors to the north there. Here's a copy of our site plan. As mentioned, we've got the rectangular borrow pit there that would approach depths of 60 feet. And then the stilling basin would be where the water settles out and the solids settle out so that clean water is infiltrated back through the rim ditch. You can see here the overall parcel and how this sits within the property boundary. As Mr. Baker mentioned, there are some wetlands on this property, but they are well to the west of where we're proposing work. So we will proceed with the Water Management District permitting for this, but there are no proposed wetland impacts. There are no wetland areas within these project limits. As Mr. Baker mentioned, the restoration plan will be an artificial pond. The rim ditch will be filled back in so that that's solid. There may be, two smaller ponds with that rim ditch in the middle or that strip remaining. We may knock that out and make one larger lake. We'll determine that as we get through the permitting. As mentioned, this site's consistent with the comprehensive plan amendment. It is an intensive ag use. The site does have an agricultural future land use. Since I can't see that very well, I'll just grab my paper copy. So, as mentioned, with the traffic trips, the site does show adequate access to Barden Road. We will obtain a driveway connection permit through the Putnam County Public Works Department. We are proposing work hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, which is consistent with the Land Development Code, with no work occurring out here on Sundays. As mentioned, we talked about the screening and buffering. When I'm done, maybe we can talk about the exact fence placement and how that works. I think the applicant is very willing to comply with the board and with staff's requirements. There is a fairly consistent string of trees and landscaping or existing vegetation along the right-of-way line. So I might recommend putting that fence maybe on that 10-foot buffer, even though it's not 50 feet in from the property line. And the applicant is willing to provide any supplemental plantings between the right-of-way line and that fence that would be offset 10 feet inside of the property line. As mentioned, no lighting is proposed here. All signs, no trespassing signs will be posted on that 6-foot fence in accordance with the Putnam County Land Development Code. Site will be gated and fenced, locked every night by the operator, and the operator here will be responsible for maintaining all environmental health and safety requirements on site. As mentioned, we'll be getting that driveway permit. We're going to maintain adequate site distance and site triangles there at the driveway connection and comply with any of the results of the concurrency application as we proceed through the technical permitting for this project. County Road 309, as mentioned, Barden Road's owned and maintained by Putnam County. Applicant will construct the concrete driveway apron as approved by the Public Works Department. And the applicant and operator will jointly ensure that County Road 309 in front of this property remains free of dirt and any debris. We'll have on-site tracking pads and wash rock there to make sure the trucks are leaving the site clean. As mentioned, You know, the site will be getting all permits as related from the Water Management District. Pretty standard operations here with excavation to a stilling basin and a rim ditch. Helps to infiltrate the water and the groundwater table. As the dewatering occurs, you're re-infiltrating the water as opposed to a surface discharge. With that, we're here to answer any questions.
Anybody have questions? Ms. Ratliff?
Knowing that area, one thing concerns me is well, there's a few things that concern me, but one thing that concerns me is the hour of operation. 7 o'clock in the morning, that road is very well traveled. School buses, people are going back and forth to work. You know, I don't know if you can change that or if that's written in stone, but that's a concern of mine. There's been a lot of accidents out there. I've lived in Palaca all my life. Highway 100 is a nightmare. And then you add 30 more trucks, large trucks, coming in and out of there at 7 o'clock in the morning. At the same time, children are going to school, people are going to work. Just wondered if that was something that was set in stone.
Understood. I will, maybe while the public has a chance to speak, get with the applicant and try to get that question answered. I do know that the applicant has considered, and it's not part of this application, it would be
Okay,
part.
you need to speak.
I'm sorry. The applicants considered some conversations with the school board about potentially creating a school bus pull-off in an area where, you know, the students or the people that are using those school buses could have a shelter or a place to pull off, whether that was deeded land or an easement. I believe at the intersection of Keystone Road and Barden Road there was some conversation about the opportunity or what the mechanism would be to allow the applicant to offer that.
Okay.
But I thought I saw in your presentation that there would be no operation of school days from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Did I misread it? Just
No,
in-
that's one of the conditions that we put in there on ourselves.
Okay,
That is
so-
correct.
And then in
I'm
the
just saying
afternoon,
above and beyond, the applicant is willing to provide some land or discuss how that school bus stop could be provided there at Keystone Road.
okay, explain, what do you mean by some land?
The applicant owns all that property, all the property that intersects with the Keystone Road right-of-way and County Road 309.
Right,
So whether it's an easement or dedicating some land at the corner of that intersection, again, don't know the mechanism, don't know how it would happen, who would construct, or if the land would be dedicated, or what would happen there, but the applicant is willing to work with staff and Public Works and the school board to provide that pull-off, that turn-off, that area for turnaround, that shelter for a school bus, in addition to anything else that we've.
okay, but that still doesn't address my question. Can you go back on your presentation to where it said hours of operation? I thought it said it would be nothing between 7 and 9? 8. Or 7 and 8?
Yes, ma'am. No, agreed.
Okay, so between 7 and 8, there's not going to
Correct.
be any trucks there?
Correct.
And then in
There
the
may be
afternoon?
workers accessing the site, but heavy dump truck traffic would be
Not-
restricted.
But then there
That's
was
correct.
also a time in the
In
afternoon?
the afternoon. Mhm.
Okay. And there's going to be an operator at that site all the time, that it's open?
That would be the understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then how are you going to propose to keep the roadway free of dirt if they're coming out of that?
Typically done with on-site gravel tracking pads and tire wash rock, and then a broom, a mechanical broom, or sweeper out in the street to,
Someone would do that if?
on a regular basis or on an as-needed basis, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one other one. Did I read that you're going to have the ability to use, I guess they use diesel? Is that, you're going to have tanks
There may be some on-site fueling of the equipment that stays there to work. That would not be fueling of dump trucks or other equipment, but the track hose or the other on-site equipment, bulldozers that are very difficult to move back and forth, would be fueled there on-site.
Okay, I have one more question. You said something that this might be a temporary location, and that, do you already have contractors that are?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think what that temporary thing was meant is that these borrow pits are not operated in perpetuity. There is a lifespan to them, so.
Right, you can only dig so much.
Correct. So that's the definition of temporary. This isn't a building, this isn't a landfill, this isn't something that has constant use in perpetuity. There is a lifespan to these projects.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, anyone in the audience wishing to come forward and speak in favor of this application? Okay, we have two requests of speakers. One is half and half, I'm not sure which way he's going to go. So, Mr. Killebrew, would you like to come up and address the board? For the record, please state your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Killebrew. I live at 146 Barden Estates Circle. As chairman and board, I appreciate y'all giving me the time to come before you and speak. I've lived in Barden myself about 36 years. We are constantly losing to development, okay? And when I say half and half, what I am for is these people have bought this property and they had intentions of making it a sod farm. They were going to make money on it anyhow, any way they go. I'm not totally against the borrow pit because, again, it is their property. I just want to make sure it's going to be managed properly. You know, like where they talk about, and y'all all said y'all been to the site, so you saw where the superhighway, I mean, that road that they've built out there is better than any county road that we have in Putnam County. And so it's going to be, you know, the trucks coming in and out of there are not going to be a problem to the neighbors next door, I don't believe. Where you come out onto Barden Road with the truck, if you've noticed at that drive, there are several, I'm going to go ahead and call them virgin pines on, you know, on either side. I mean, when log trucks come out of there, they have a problem seeing either way. So as long as they cut back and make where that, maybe where the truck can come out onto the highway to an easement first before it comes out on the highway, because I'm thinking in my own logical mind that everything's going to go south. When it comes out, it's going to go south. There's really no way for it to go north, except when it goes north, it's going to hit the county line and hit all those dirt roads, so I don't think it's going to go that way. The problem's going to be the trucks coming north to go in. So, you know, you're going to, I mean, there's got to be some kind of easement either side of that thing. I mean, people fly up and down Barden Road. And Fern Bay, where that's at now, there's a cross out there now for a young man that, I mean, for no other reason but speed, he was killed. And there's several people being killed in that bay. Because, I mean, it's a wide open range, and the kids come around people and things like that. My question to the owners of this property would be, when you say 30 dump trucks, are you talking about the tandem load trucks, or are you talking about a semi-truck with a trailer on the back of it, like come out of the sand pits out there in Grandin? You know, what is that? That's, you know, what are we looking at there? You know, just and the setback. I mean, your staff said it was the northwest corner. It's actually the northeast corner, and that's back there around Etna Creek. I mean, you know, everybody that's been here in Putnam County or Bradford County, Clay County for a while, all know Lake Brooklyn over in Keystone Heights. You know, I mean, they blame that lake going down for a sand pit, for the sand mines, you know, digging the sand mines. I mean, so what are we talking about? I mean, I understand being close to a wetland, but I mean, that's awful close to Etna Creek in my memory. I haven't been back there in a long time. But, you know, again, I'm all for people making money, you know, off their property. They bought the property. It's their property. They have a right to do with what they want to on that property. But then when it comes on the outside and affects us, that's where we have a say. So then That's my 2 cents. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Next speaker will be Angela Glisson.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Angela Glisson. I live at 628 Barden Road. Mr. Killebrew spoke actually a lot of what I had to say. I live just past Odom Road. I live next door to the park. And we have a lot of kids that have recently really started using the park. If we're going to be living there 6 days a week, listening to a lot of the noise coming from this place, if we don't have any kind of buffer, and go until 6 o'clock at night, possibly if you give an extension, which I did read in some of the information, there's a possibility that hours could be extended, then that's going to interfere in these kids playing. And I'm concerned about that because the kids are enjoying that time. If you ride down Barden Road, which you have visited the area, you see how the roads are affected now and how it's like riding down Morse code. And there's a lot of potholes. And I've worked in the trucking company business, so I understand how these drivers drive and if it's not moderated. And so I am, like Mr. Killebrew said, are these large trucks that are going to be pulled by semis, or are they going to be just regular dump trucks? So that's our concern too. How much weight is going to be put on this road, because whenever it rains, the cold patches, they're washed out. And we've already had actually two fatalities right there where the cross is at. And they fly down this road, and people pass each other on those corners. When they're going to pull out of this area, they're going to be passing people on that road, and they're not going to be seen. And we don't need any more fatalities in this area. I agree with Mr. Killebrew. We do want to see development. We do want people to thrive. We want them to make money, but we also want our community to be safe. We want our kids to be safe. There's also another bus stop at Odom Road. So, you know, you have 2 bus stops right on each end of that area. So we just ask that you consider those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Leota Wilkinson. For the record, please state your name and address.
Leota Wilkinson, 627 Barden Road, and I'm here as an independent person who lives in the community. Just wanted to say a few things both of my neighbors said was very on point. One thing that I want to mention is in that area we have a lot of side-by-side traffic. We have a lot of ATV, what they consider side-by-sides, I don't know. And we all take our kids out in the neighborhood in the afternoons, and sometimes we do get on Barden Road, and sometimes we go in that area. And so my concern is obviously for my grandkids and the hours of operation, because in his slide I'm pretty sure it said to 8 p.m. and then when I look at this paperwork it says 6 p.m. is the end. And so I'm a little confused as to what's really the time frame. And so I want to make sure that you guys would look at that as far as what is the hours of operation and can they be adjusted. Again, the staff review says 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and says that that's what the LDC states. However, I'm pretty sure his presentation said to 8 p.m. So I would like to see it limited because most of the time when people are out in the evenings, it's in the evenings. It's not in the middle of the day. So that's the ask that I have for you guys. And also I was concerned a little bit about the dust. Is there going to be some dust from this in the area? And if there's something that can be done about that. I know that a lot of this will be done through the DRC, through the Development Review Committee, but I just wanted to bring up some points for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, those are the only speaker cards I had, but I'm going to ask, is there anybody in the audience that would like to come and speak in opposition to this application? Were you sworn in before you come forward? Okay, come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mike Rogers. I live at 137 Ranchette Way. I was born in Lake Wales, Florida. It is an identical area to Barden, which is why I moved here, because the area in Lake Wales where I had planned on retiring eventually was destroyed by burrow pits and sand mines. Nobody wants to live around the area we lived. It ruined the property values in those areas. When you drive by on the 2-lane roads that they still are, it's a horrible sight to see. They say they reclaim them. What happens, it's a big hole, regardless of what anybody says. It's not a pond that you think of as a pond. It's a big hole in the ground. They become stagnant most of the time. The mosquito populations in the area increases intensely. People that live in that basic area, I know people there that stopped enjoying the outside in the evenings because of the mosquitoes, and there was nothing that could stop them. The county wouldn't take care of it. The previous owners of the pit wouldn't take care of it. And today it sits there with old equipment sitting as you drive by. It's an unsightly thing, stacks of old dirt. There's 2 pits. When they say they want it 30 acres or 24 acres, they always want more. So those pits grew and grew to the size of lakes. What was once a beautiful cattle ranch, like Barden Road, beautiful out there. All these cattle. It's nothing but a huge hole in the ground. I think they went 100 and 150 feet down. And it's about probably 3/4 filled, so it's cliffs all around. There's been a couple of deaths in that lake where the kids go. They always want to swim in the water. The water is a beautiful green, you might say, because it's stagnant. And it has other possibilities of destroying local groundwaters. If people have shallower wells and so forth, who knows what it's going to affect. So my only concern is that it's going to distract the people that live in that immediate area. Property values can be lowered, and I will be requesting a reduction, and I'm sure other people will if this is allowed to continue, because people don't want to live near those things. The noise pollution, all day long, they say 30 trips, or 30 trucks. The destruction of that road, Barden Road, is going to occur. Who's going to take care of Barden Road? Who's going to make, it's already bad enough. These trucks are huge, heavy, and they're going to be carrying out millions of cubic yards of soil, dirt, or whatever it is they're moving. So that needs to be considered. Who's taking care of Barden Road all the way in the direction they traveled? Other than that, it's a safety issue. I know these tractor trailers filled with this dirt, gravel, whatever they're going to haul. These drivers are usually paid by the load. They move very quickly. Point A, point B. They want to make as many trips as they can. I've witnessed it even Tarpon Springs, where I moved up here last year. I've been coming up here 20 years. I retired last year. I left the Tarpon area, one main reason. They turned the country into a city. And the last thing they did was build a burrow pit right outside of town. And those trucks ended up clogging rush hour traffic. The road gets dirty, it's dangerous, and those drivers go out and kill people at the intersections because they're making money by the load. Other than that, the people that live around there don't deserve to have their quiet life. It's a beautiful area out there, destroyed by the sound of booming trucks, the dump trucks, the noise, the equipment. Please consider that, because that is what I call a little bit of heaven out there. That's why I'm here, not to see it destroyed. I know development's coming, but it needs to be controlled. The last thing I thought of was this big pit that I refused to live near and where I wanted to originally retire. So please consider all of that and the people that love that area and the children at that park. They don't need to listen to that noise all day long. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I saw another hand in the back of the room that wanted to speak in opposition. Were you sworn in? Okay. Anyone else? Were you, yes, sir. Were you sworn in? Okay, please come forward. For the record, state your name and address.
My name's Stephen Barker, and my address is 253 East Bannerville Road. Good afternoon.
Okay, where, Placa,
Barden?
Barden, okay.
Yes, ma'am, right off of Barden Road, about 3.8 miles from that location.
Okay, so it's Placa, okay.
Yep. So I heard some of the key points. I'll have to maybe just reiterate a few. The traffic, commuter traffic in the morning, even after 8 o'clock, some people have jobs throughout the day, so that traffic continues. State Road 100 is very dangerous in the morning, and we already have 2 active projects, or 1 active project with the solar farm that's increased commercial traffic. They've been very, pretty good about impact, but you still see them in the morning. And the log tracks that will always be there with the paper mill, they drive through there continually. So then to add 30 dump trucks a day, people are going to have to, they're going to be impacted. They're going to have to leave a lot earlier, be a lot more cognitive of dump trucks coming onto the State Road 100 intersection. There are a lot of fatalities that happen there on a monthly, sometimes weekly basis. It's and also kind of I just started thinking too, future land use is still going to have commercial impact with more heavy trucks in the area taking sod in and out of the community. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to come forward and speak in opposition? If not, okay. Mr. Leahy, I think, would you like to comment on some of the concerns of our citizens?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think a couple of points of clarification that I would like to make real quick, and I'm sorry I missed this one before. We are proposing 60 trucks per day, so that's not 30, that's 60.
Okay, back into the mic.
60 trucks per day during the operating hours.
What happened to 30?
I believe that was a misinterpretation between staff and myself. I heard that during Mr. Baker's presentation, but I just want to be clear that when we stated 60 in the application, that's 60 trucks, so 120 trips at the maximum. The part of the presentation here about the 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and the 2 to 4 references when the haul route goes past a school. So there is no school between, and most of the public that discussed the potential haul route is correct, anticipating the majority of these truck trips going to the south. So what we are proposing here, and just to go through a few of these, right, the trees and some of that was mentioned, the sight distance at the intersection, which is when you pull up to the stop sign, when you look right and you look left, that will all be maintained as part of the concurrency review and part of the Public Works application. We will show those site distances. Any of that clearing that would need to occur on site to accommodate those site triangles would happen, and the fence and the buffering would be placed behind those proposed site triangles.
So what would be the distance that you would be visible if you were pulling onto Barden Road on each side to where you could see traffic coming?
I don't have that answer. I could sketch for you what that would look like, but the MUTCD and the Green Book are 2 design manuals that we use based on speed, and that is the same thing that the DOT uses and roadway design guidelines. So we would meet that site distance, and that is all part of the technical review of this. So I can't get you that distance now.
Okay.
If you want additional data, we can work with staff and try to get you that. But we would like to propose a condition here just to clarify the operating hours. And this is a condition that we would like to add to this approval. Operating hours of 8 to 4 during the school year and 7 to 4 during non-school times.
I'm sorry, say that
7 to what?
again.
7 to what?
7 to 4 during non-school times, 8 to 4 during the school year.
Okay, well, then that would be, are you going to look at the different holidays that the school district has in its calendar? Or are you talking about the summer where there's no school?
I would imagine that that generally refers to the summertime. I guess if the board has a purview there, I didn't think about it in that great a detail, honestly.
Madam Chair.
Okay, okay. Okay, go ahead and finish your, because I think we have a couple more questions.
So just a little bit of the groundwater discharge and the groundwater stuff. As part of our ERP permit, which is the Environmental Resource Permit from the Water Management District, we will have to provide that groundwater model. So we have information from Department of Health on the adjacent wells. We have groundwater elevations based on soil borings that we will take on site as we prepare the technical drawings for this. And the state will require that we provide this groundwater model that shows that we're not drawing down any of the adjacent properties or any of the adjacent wetlands with any of these dewatering activities. So that's a technical component, right? Not necessarily part of this. Some of the public comment that came up, just want to let you guys know that that is truly in the state's purview, and that will be part of the environmental resource permit that we have to obtain.
Okay.
As Mr. Killebrew mentioned, this site is an active sod farm. It does have active cattle pasture on it. It is an operating agricultural business out here. So this water would be used for irrigation. It would be used to allow the cows to water. Some of the testimony that you heard from some of the public, I'm truthfully not sure. I've never heard of a borrow pit in my career going to 150 feet deep. Typically, you hit the Floridian aquifer well before you get there. This is not a dredging operation. A lot of these sand mines are dredging operations with processed water. This is not that. Right, this is a traditional borrow pit with a rim ditch and a stilling basin. No mining, no processing, no dredging, no processed water, none of that.
So the 60 feet is the,
Theoretical maximum.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And we need to determine we have material that deep. We still haven't collected a lot of that data to proceed with the technical permitting. This zoning approval is the first step in the process.
Can you address the size of these trucks? I know that came up a couple of times, if it was going to be a dump truck or a semi-truck.
That I do not know. I think all I can say there is that these trucks would not exceed any of the DOT maximum thresholds. And as part of this concurrency process, any turn lanes, any deceleration or acceleration lanes that would be needed would be done as part of the technical components of this when we apply for the concurrency and we apply for the driveway permit. So this applicant's been operating pits for a number of years in St. Johns County. So they are good stewards. You can, see that these roads are clean in these areas that they're operating currently.
okay. Any other questions from Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, you say that this is for water reclamation to irrigate, right?
That would be one of the end uses of the lake, yes, sir.
I mean, do you have a time set that you will finish the pit, that you won't be digging anymore?
No, sir, that I do not know.
Well, I mean, you have a setup for a certain size that you want for the pond. I mean, once you get there, then what? You're going to keep digging, or?
No, sir, it would be done after that.
That's what I'm asking, then what time limit would you put on that?
I truthfully just haven't done the math based on number of trucks and number of, volume of potential material in there to give you that answer. I would say, in generalities, these pits are operating on a basis from, 2 to 3 years at this size approximately.
I mean, if you know the amount of trucks that are coming in and out, you should know the cubic yards that they're carrying, and you should know the amount of dirt that you're pulling out of there. So you should have a time on it.
Not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I didn't have that question. I'm not prepared to give you that answer at the current moment. But this is truly driven by the market conditions. We've set theoretical maximums. Not even sure if it would get to those theoretical maximums, right?
thank you.
I can go back and do some rough math if you'd like an idea of a duration, but I would anticipate in,
I mean, everybody's worried about the amount of trucks going up and down the road. I mean, eventually, they shouldn't have any anymore.
that's correct. That's is absolutely correct. It's a very temporary use. That duration, I cannot give you down to the T, but in my experience has been for approximately a 20-acre pit in the nature of 2 to 3 years to excavate that material.
Okay, that just seems like a long time.
Mr. West, I think you have a
For
question.
clarification, you're suggesting operating hours 7 to 4, Monday through Friday, doing school days?
No, 8 to 4.
7 to 4,
7.
Monday to Saturday.
Yeah. 8 to 4 doing non-school days, and 8 to 4 doing school days,
That's
Monday
correct.
through Friday, with Saturday being a 7 to 4.
That's
like
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you did say there was a possibility there would be a turn-in lane, or did I understand you to say?
Yes, sir, that would typically be determined at the staff review once we file the concurrency and we work through the driveway application with Public Works.
Okay, any other questions?
One more.
You have one, Mr. Ratner?
At one time, I thought I heard a different number, but is it true that the closest home to this is 800 feet?
Is what?
800
I do believe that's what staff calculated and I read in the staff report. I don't have that answer, but I do know that we are at the closest to our silt fence, about 143 feet from the property line. I don't have a survey or anything of that parcel to the north to allow me to scale off how close that nearest home is. But I do believe that, you know, from the road and some of the other public comment about the operations, being a quarter-mile back from Barden Road, north of maybe 3/4 of a mile from the park, I don't believe you're going to hear this at all beyond the property boundaries. I don't think you're going to hear that pump running. I don't think that you're going to hear the equipment running. I don't think you'll hear this at all.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for your time.
I have a question for staff. No, sir, just a minute. I have a question for staff. What is the normal life of borrow pits here in Putnam County? And who is going to make sure that all of the conditions are adhered to on a regular basis?
For the record, Joe Seeley, Planning Development Services. So that's a loaded question, only because it depends on the number of trucks going in and out of there. So if they have 5 trucks, you know, it could take up to 20 years. We've seen them last from 20 years to 5 years. But like I said, I don't know that staff could answer that without factual data in front of us.
Okay, and who's going to, I'm sorry?
If I may add to that,
Sure.
the site work permit that's going to be issued associated with this request will have a duration of 5 years, at which point the applicant will have the requirement to extend for an additional 5 years. If they fail to reapply, or after that 10-year dig, if it exceeds that time period, then the special use permit will no longer cover it. They'll have to reapply for another SUP at that point.
Okay. So 5 years, basically, you know, it starts all over again if they don't renew it.
5 years, yes. So if they renew the site work permit, then there's no other SUP requirements. But if
Okay.
they fail to renew, or it goes 10 years to one extension, then it back to SUP.
Okay. My other question was, on a regular basis, and I know the staff, you can only do so much, but who's going to make sure that all of the rules and regulations are adhered to? And can we limit the number of trucks in and out per day?
Well, it would be inspected initially. However, I don't think that our code enforcement staff would be proactive. I think it'd be more reactive in regards to, if there were issues and people complaining, we would then investigate and make sure they were complying with all conditions. As far as limiting the number of trucks going in and out, I believe you can make any condition you want. However, it would have to be agreeable with the applicant, of course. Yeah, it would have to be agreeable with the applicant if they chose to move forward with the number of trucks. We don't have a traffic study. All this stuff will be determined at DRC. So we don't know how many trucks are going to be moving in and out or how many to regulate. However, if this panel wanted to move forward with a condition, you rightfully so could.
Okay, because 60 trucks just seems like it's an outrageous number of trucks going in and out, coming off of Barden Road onto 100.
And as he mentioned, it is a hypothetical number. We don't have a traffic study yet. We don't know. Once we get the DRC, that's when we start determining the number of trips that'll be maintained on those roadways.
So that could be limited. If we don't put a stipulation in our approval, recommendation, or denial, then that could be done by DOT or whoever is going to be
Yeah, we would, at
overseeing
DRC, we would have, staff would ask for, Public Works would ask for a traffic study and then determine, if roadway improvements were needed, if we could come to terms with some type of number of trips that was, permissible, or not permissible, I guess acceptable. However, as I mentioned, this panel could make that condition. However, we don't have the factual evidence to really make that decision today. So without a traffic study, that's kind of hard to make, because we could say 5 or 30, but we really don't know how many trips or how many trucks they're going to be having going in and out.
Okay, staff said something about with the approval, or I guess what you think is considered a fair number of trucks coming in and out. So is 60 your deadline or your drop dead number of trucks that you're going to have in and out of there?
Might I ask what number feels acceptable to the board, and I can interact with the applicant? And
I'm sorry.
might I ask what the board feels is a fair number, and I can interact with the applicant to see if that's amenable to them?
Well, I'm not sure that we can put a condition for X number of trucks, and then it goes back unless we're overridden from the standpoint of staff and/or the people that make all of the decisions. So I'm not sure that would serve anybody well at this time.
And Madam Chair, if I may interject again, if this panel, if this board puts a number on the allowable trips, it would have to be adhered to. But as I mentioned, without the factual data,
That's what I'm saying.
It's kind of throwing a number in the air at this point.
If we limit the number of trucks that's going in and out of there on a daily basis, and then it comes back that, oh, no, well, they were wrong, you could do 45 truck loads per day. So, are the recommendations made by this board the last say-so, or can it be?
They have to be adhered to by staff, correct?
Okay.
We would not be able to override your decision.
Okay. All right, Mary.
I don't think we've still received an answer about the same questions that we ask every time a borrow pit comes up. This board asks, is there enough staffing to monitor whatever restrictions that we place on it? Now, what you're saying is there isn't, and if someone complains about it, then it goes to code and it's picked up from there. Is that what you said?
That is correct. It's not, code enforcement's not proactive. However, if it is reactive. So we would initially be looking at the site plan and doing inspections and making sure that they are complying with what we've approved. However, the ongoing compliance solely depends on, what we hear from the surrounding community. So we wouldn't actively, I don't believe, and I'm speaking on behalf of code enforcement, but I don't believe we actively go inspect.
Okay, if we don't put a limit on the truck, on the number of trucks that go in and out of there on a daily basis, and the DOT or whoever is the one who's making that determination once a traffic study is done, can they put a limit on the number of trucks? Yes. I'm just making sure.
Yes, now DOT, they could place a restriction on the number of trucks and traffic going in and out of there. However, if this panel, they decide on a number of trucks today, staff can't go beyond that. DOT can, but I don't believe that we could.
Okay, DOT could override what we
Correct.
decide to do.
But I believe that's a county-maintained road, so I don't know that. And I'll let Zach speak to this because this is application, but I don't believe that they would have any purview over that. But I'll let the applicant or Zach speak to that.
Madam Chair, DOT is not going to be involved in this because it's a county road. So it's going
Okay.
to go to our Public Works Department where they can impose certain trips per day.
So our Putnam County Public Works,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. All right. Do you have any?
No, I think I
rebuttal
just wanted
concern?
to maybe paint a couple pictures for you.
Sorry.
I just wanted to maybe paint a couple pictures.
Okay,
One being, the fewer trucks or the lower the number that you may restrict, the potential longer duration of operation of the pit. And then I just wanted to say that 60 in its own right sounds like a lot, but when you break that over a 9 or a 10-hour operating day, it's not like there's 60 trucks lined up there at one time, is my point, right? There's cycle times, there's operating times, there's haul routes, and those would be spaced out, right? It's, it's not a farm field where they've harvested a field of corn and there's 13 semis sitting there waiting to be
I
loaded.
understand that.
This is
That still leaves quite a few per hour. I mean, there's only so many hours between 8 and 4.
understood.
Okay. I'm sorry, unless you have been sworn in and you're in, we have listened to the public unless you have something else to offer. Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Is this gentleman sitting in the front row part of your group?
Yes, ma'am, he's the applicant.
Oh, he's the applicant, okay. Well, since you're the applicant, would you like to come forward? We'd like to hear from you. Or since you had your hand in the air. For the record, please state your name and address.
I'm Joe Williams, 2745 Long Road, St. Augustine, and I'm one of the applicants and one of the owners of the property, and
Okay.
glad to be part of Barden, and certainly don't want to upset any neighbors, but, we've done these projects before, and they can be pretty unobtrusive, and understanding the truck traffics are concerns, but yes, the more you limit the daily trips, the longer it takes to do the pit, and so, hopefully that takes into consideration for you guys. And if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
At 60 truckloads a day, I'm assuming you already have customers that are?
I don't, no.
Oh,
This is a special use, this is preliminary, like you said, I don't have any customers yet.
Okay.
So this is the first step to being able to spend those dollars to get that information, to test those soils, to see if there's customers. This is a hope and a prayer, and hopefully we can. And if there is customers and it works, we're gonna do it in the safest way possible and have nuisance abatement and dust control and all the things that Matt talked about.
Okay, since you said soil tests, are there certain types of soil that you would want to haul out for different projects?
Yeah,
Okay. And you haven't done the soil test yet?
I've done preliminary on the surface. We haven't done down to 60 feet. We've got historical stuff that's available online and things I've seen, and, we're hoping we can do it.
Okay, Ms. Ratliff, I think, has a
Is
question for
Is
you.
your main objective to make money off the bar pit, or is your main objective to have water to irrigate for your sod farm? Which, is it both?
It's both. I need enough money to afford to prep all the fields and sod. And I don't know if you've seen my project, but I come in with a lot of dump trucks already. So I'm already coming in with dump trucks full of compost. And my compost I put down at 10 tons per acre. At 10 tons per acre, I don't need commercial fertilizers, which means I don't have any runoff and I don't have any water management issues, and it's safer really for everybody to have an organic compost versus a fertilizer that frankly, with that sandy soil, doesn't work that great anyway. So to my knowledge, we're the first Barden farm that's been able to lift and actually sell Bahia sod. And most of it that I've sold has already 80% grown back in and almost ready for harvest again. So if I'm coming in with a dump truck of my compost, I would like to leave with a product to be more efficient. So if we don't want to waste trips and waste traffic. And yes, we need to generate revenue to be able to get all the acreage into sod and be able to do that. That's the honest, it's what we're doing.
Why Putnam County instead of St. John's?
So I couldn't afford in St. Johns County.
At least you're honest.
Mr. Kramer's been a real nice neighbor to us. We've been working well with our neighbors. He's been very helpful and showed me some things and told me some things, and he seemed to be happy that we're continuing the agriculture. And we're not trying to do RV parks, neighborhoods. We don't do those. I
Kramer.
don't do those things. Ernie Kramer.
Ernie Kramer, yes,
Yep.
sir.
So what's the size of your sod farm right now?
We're 419 acres, and I've got about 50 acres that I'm cycling right now.
Okay,
But I want all of them.
all of them.
And we also lease for Ernie's cows as well. So the cows, believe it or not, I can do the cows at the same time I'm doing, and everybody at the property appraiser, about my ag exemption, they would say, well, how are you doing sod and you're doing cattle? Well, because I don't have to mow the sod if the cattle eat the grass. And so I can double dip. I can let the cattle eat the grass, and then I can sell it and then cycle it out.
And your other mines and sod farms are in St. John's, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, I think, all right, I'll give you a chance to speak. Normally I wouldn't, but have you been sworn in? Okay, come forward then. For the record, please state your name and address.
My name is Neil Edwards. I live at 122 Ranchette Way, which is right across from Odom Road, where these trucks are going to be
Okay.
coming. The more I hear, the more concerned I've gotten. First of all, the name borrow pit is a little deceiving, because when you say borrow, it assumes you want to go bring something back, put something back that you borrowed, and that's not happening. Another thing, you're talking about 60 trucks, don't sound like it's not really that much. Well, if they're making 2 trips each a day, that's 240 times we're going to see a dump truck going down the road in an 8-hour day. That's back-to-back trucks. I don't care how you look at it. That's 240 times a truck's going to be, we're going to see dump trucks going down the road in an 8-hour day.
How did you get 240
He
with
said
60
60 trucks.
round trip?
60 trucks, he said, were coming.
Right.
Okay, if he said they're gonna make 2 trips each, that's coming and going, so each truck,
I don't think that's what he said, but I could be I could be
he said
mistaken.
60 trucks a
Thought he
day.
said round trip, which would be 120. You're going in and coming out.
He said they were gonna make 2 trips each. He said
I
they were
don't
gonna
think
go
he- well,
during an 8-hour day, they're gonna go.
that's not what I
dump a
understood,
load.
but
Well,
that's
what he
what you
said.
understood.
Go,
Okay.
Come go.
Okay.
That's a lot of trucks going up and down that road. And then you had a problem with the hours, which I did too, the operating hours. And it's funny that you say you have a problem with it, and this gentleman in the plaid goes away and comes back, okay, it's changed. Business doesn't happen like that. I feel like we're just getting the answers that we want to hear.
Well, if there's a problem with the hours of operation, then as citizens, you have a responsibility or a right to complain and, turn them in.
That's what we're doing here.
Okay. And I'm just saying,
Right.
if.
Yeah. I'm just, and the runoff, I mean, they're talking a artificial pond, well, that's a hole in the ground with water in it, pretty much. And I'm concerned about the water table. What's going to happen? Everybody out there, a lot of people out there have shallow wells. Well, if they're digging a 40-acre hole in the ground 60 feet deep, you know, who's to say that's not going to affect the aquifer, our water, in all of our wells? It's happened before at other sand mines, which this is what it is, a sand mine. So that's my concerns. You know, the county can't maintain the road now. It's full of potholes, and when you get 60 trucks a day coming in and out twice each, that's a lot of traffic. And I've never seen, I've seen several of these happen before, and it's never like it says. It's always more. That 40-acre hole in the ground, that, you know, ends up being a little bigger and a little bigger, especially if it's profitable. So that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, I think at this time, we're going to close this to the public and open it up for board motion and discussion. Everybody speak at once.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve special use permit 23-00002 as it meets the criteria for a special use permit as required by section 45-1083 of Putnam County Land Development Code, with the 4 conditions recommended by staff, with the 5th condition being limiting the hours of operation 7 to 4, Monday through Saturday, except on school days 8 to 4. And authorize the chair to sign the final order.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve SUP 23-0000002. I do have a concern here because the motion was on school days. So, you know, the kids are out for Christmas, they're out for spring break. And who's going to monitor that, you know, from the standpoint of the days that school's not in? I would, you know, I don't know. That's my own concern. But we have a motion and a second. So I had to say that. Okay. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? All right, motion carries 6-1. All right, good luck with your endeavor, and I hope that you guys will be good neighbors, and if there's any issues, please work closely with staff.
Automatic weapons.
Excuse me. Excuse me, we will not have any outbursts in the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next case is SUP 23-00004. Before we hear the case, let's do an ex parte communication. Roll.
No. No.
No.
No.
No.
No.
Okay, staff. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, are you ready?
Clean the place out.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is special use permit case SUP 23-000004. The application is for a borrow area in the agriculture zoning district. The applicant is Jonathan Simpson of Rainier Forest Resource LP with agent Matt Lottie from Gulfstream Design Group. The location of this borrow area will be the south side of East Cracker Swamp Road, agriculture, future land use, and agriculture zoning district. This site comprises 2 parcels equaling 644.28 acres. The borrow area will encompass 5 acres with a maximum depth of borrow activity 60 foot. The parcel has direct access to East Cracker Swamp Road. Borrow activities will avoid areas of wetlands and include a 50-foot buffer between borrow activities and wetlands. Operation, or hours of operation will be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday. And a reclamation plan for this is an artificial pond. It's not Groundhog's Day, I promise. Here you have an aerial image of the property. The zoning district, again, everything is ag with some mining to the north. Future land use is ag with mining to the north. There is some wetland presence on this site. The project area does have some impact on those wetlands. The applicants will be working again with St. Johns River Water Management District and Florida Department of Environmental Protection to obtain an ERP. The FEMA flood zones are sporadic. There's some X and there's some A. Again, the supplemental standards for a borrow area, I'll just have them on the screen here for just a few minutes. These are going to be all of the requirements that the applicants will be required to adhere to, and then some as determined through the Development Review Committee process and the site work permit application. Here's those standards continued on. Conclusion and recommendation, the applicant has requested a special use permit to establish a 5-acre borrow area on 2 parcels comprising 644.28 acres. The majority of the project will be located on a 36.69 acre parcel. Staff finds that the proposed borrow area meets the criteria for a special use permit, and staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. The DRC shall review and approve the proposed borrow area before a site work permit is issued. The applicant shall submit a concurrency assessment application and pay the associated review fee while the DRC is reviewing the proposed request. The applicant shall supply the Putnam Planning and Development Services Department with documentation from St. Johns River Water Management District acknowledging the proposed development before obtaining a site work permit. The applicant shall provide a form of surety defined in LDC Section 45-169B8 for the reclamation of the site in an amount to be determined by the Department of Public Works prior to the issuance of a site work permit. This condition was also added. At a minimum, the excavation site shall be enclosed with a 6-foot-high chain link fence and security gate to restrict unwanted access to the site. Additionally, trespass warning signs no less than 1 square foot and no greater than 6 square feet shall be installed on the chain link fence. Those signs shall be placed every 200 feet along East Cracker Swamp Road and any fence line adjacent to a property under separate ownership. Fence lines which are adjacent to properties under common ownership may space the trespass warning signs up to 400 feet from one another. This was to mostly capture that eastern property line where we don't know who owns it because it's in St. Johns County. So that'll be for the applicant to abide by. I can answer any questions.
Okay. I have a question about the chain link fence. I know whenever I was out there, there was sort of a tree line along the roadway. So is that going to be maintained, or is the chain link fence just going to be around the actual borrow pit?
We haven't gotten that far yet. We'll determine that in DRC, but the standards for the borrow area states at a minimum on the property line, but it can come in. They really just need to restrict the borrow area itself.
Okay. I guess I can ask the same questions of the gentleman when he comes up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any questions from staff? Okay, thank you. Before we proceed, let's do a site visit roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Matt Lady.
Lottie.
Okay. All right, make sure that everybody can hear you, because
No problem.
the system's in and out, or sometimes you stand closer and not as close before. Okay, this is your busy day, so.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Matt Lottie, 2225 State Road A1A South, Engineer of Record for Rayonier Forest Resources. Rainier, in short, is the owner of this land. We are seeking the request to excavate approximately 5 acres. The excavation of this one is much different than the one that we just talked about. This material here is more like road base, known as shell rock, and it will be excavated with a drag line. So not a mine, no chemical, but it will not be pumped. It will all be excavated in a wet condition. So there will be no pumping, no dewatering activities. And this material is actually for use on another Rainier project. So it will be leaving the site, thus the need for this application to comply with the Land Development Code. So location map here showing where this parcel lies. It's to the south of Cracker Swamp Road. In Putnam County, Rainier is the adjacent landowner to the east also. However, that land is in St. Johns County. These parcels are bound by drainage systems maintained by the Hastings Drainage District. And directly to the north of this site is the SRM concrete mine that is in St. Johns County and exits onto the road in State Road 207. So this vein north to south here contains this same type of material. And again, this is just a request for a 5-acre excavation. Here's a site plan. We will be maintaining that 50-foot buffer from Cracker Swamp Road. I do not believe it is the applicant's intent to clear that tree line along Cracker Swamp Road. That existing ditch is pretty deep. So we will work with DRC and get that fence set back from the actual property line, but it will encompass the borrow activities with the gate. As Mr. Baker mentioned, there are some wetlands to the west. They are not in our project limit. They have been flagged. They are shown on the site plan, and we will be maintaining the 25-foot upland buffer on those wetlands. Again, for the overall, how this fits in the parcels, we've hatched the one parcel ID. Honestly, not sure how that parcel ID was generated back in the day, but it's within the larger section here that's owned by Rainier. Again, the restoration plan, as Mr. Baker mentioned, there's really not a whole lot of restoration here. We'll restore any disturbed areas with hydro seeding or sodding. And as mentioned, we don't anticipate this lake being really any deeper than 10 feet post-construction. Consistency with the comprehensive plan, again, as Mr. Baker mentioned, we're in the A1 Ag Future Land Use. Construction of this excavation area is allowable within the AG zoning district. Consistent with the rural nature here, these roads are being used by heavy farm trucks and heavy truck traffic in today's existing condition. We're going to access directly to Cracker Swamp Road. We'll be obtaining the driveway permit from Public Works, working through the concurrency application. Again, hours of operation and the truck traffic. Again, theoretical maximum for the truck traffic. Honestly, don't see that one lasting very long to excavate. Again, it's intended as road material for another project that's active and ready. No lighting be proposed here. As Mr. Baker mentioned, we'll install the trespass signs along Cracker Swamp Road and along the right-of-way per the Land Development Code. The 6-foot fence will be here, chain link, locked every day by the operator. Operator is going to maintain all the on-site conditions. If any fuel is present on site, it will be maintained in accordance with the Land Development Code. Again, we feel that the duration of this will be much shorter. Again, just a picture here so you can see it overlaid on an aerial of the site. And we're just working up in that northeast corner, right? Pretty small when you consider the larger size of the tract here. So we're here to answer any questions you might have as it relates to this application.
I have a question. Okay, when you come out onto Cracker Swamp Road, are you going to be taking a left or a right, or go on 207, or which way are you going?
Don't have that crystal ball.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Would assume that the majority of these trucks, honestly, will probably go right into St. Johns County, go to County Road 13, and come back around through Hastings to get back to the east. But
Okay,
they might
wait a
go to
minute.
207, they might go west to use 207 and make a right on 207. If they do go to the east into St. Johns County, they will have the stoplight there at Main Street in Hastings to go left, right, or straight where 207 intersects.
Okay. Any number of trucks are you proposing, or?
No, ma'am. Again, well, we asked for the same 60, pretty typical in our applications. We do these across numerous counties here in Northeast Florida. Again, as Mr. Surley recommended or suggested, we don't have these answers until we get there. So unfortunately, it is a theoretical maximum, understanding rain days, other inclement weather, nobody's working, so.
Okay, you say, explain to me a drag line. Is that, I'm assuming, is it going to be sort of like a strip mine to a
Well,
degree?
in my beach mine, it's like a sand flea rake, right?
Okay.
Like you rake it in the water and you pull back the material. It's got a chain and it pulls. It's not mechanically excavated via a cutter head or water. You're using a track hoe or a line and excavating the wet material.
Okay.
It's very shelly material out here.
I have a question only because I noticed a drainage district board member back there. Is there any issue with the drainage district encroaching on any of their stuff here?
I don't believe so. I'll be happy to hear what Mr. Coe has to say and work through anything that the drainage district wants us to work with them on.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not have any speaker cards for this case, so is there anyone in the audience wishing? Oh, site visits, I'm sorry. Site visits. Should have done it before.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
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 I have a good person up here keeping me in line. Okay, is anyone in the audience wishing to come forward and speak in favor of this application? No one's coming forward. Anyone in the audience wishing to come forward and speak in opposition? No one's coming forward. So at this time, we will close it to the public and open it up for board motion and discussion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve special case number SUP 23-000004. As the request does meet the criteria for a special use permit as required by section 45-1083 of the Putnam County Land Development Code. With the conditions recommended by staff and with the addition, no additions, and authorize the chair to sign the final order.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve SUP 23-000004. Any further discussion? If none, all of those,
Complicated. I'd like to amend the motion.
Mr. West, you're going to come.
I make a motion that we add a condition 6, that the hours of operations will be between 7 and 6 o'clock, Monday through Saturday.
All right.
7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
I agree with that.
I need a second.
Okay, we need a second.
Second then.
All right. Okay, you have a,
I'm just saying we're okay with that if
okay, you're okay with that? Okay, we have an amendment to the motion that the sixth condition, that the hours of operation be 7
a.m. to 6 p.m.
to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. All right. We have a motion and a second. All right, all of those in favor to the amendment, say aye. Raise your right hand. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, motion carries. Okay, back to the original motion to approve SUP 23-0004. 00004. And in a second, all of those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion carries, 7-0. I forgot to tell you before, but there is a 30-day appeal process, so if there's any issues or concerns, please work closely with staff. Thank you. Miss me on that one.
Be involved in the other one too?
Okay.
It's not. He was involved with the other one too.
No, evidently not.
Okay. The next case is variance 23-000005. And before we hear the case, we need to do a ex parte communication roll call.
No.
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 Mr. Perry, since Mr. Smith took a break, can we ask him later for that response?
Yes,
Here he
ma'am, you
comes.
can.
Okay, here he comes.
I'm sure he'll be back in a moment, though.
Here he is. Mr. Smith, we're taking a vote on, or a roll call for ex parte communication.
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. This is a variance on behalf of Racetrack, Inc. Location as at 200 South Highway 17 East. It's a 4.18 acre parcel that currently maintains a gas station and convenience store. It's zoned commercial general C3, and has a future land use of C3, commercial. The request is from asking for leniency from Land Development Code Section 45-635, Table 711B, to allow an increase in the maximum commercial driveway width from 16 feet to 65 feet. Now, this is preliminary to a rezoning application that the applicant currently has in for a truck stop, which is the impetus of this request. As mentioned, it is developed with a gas station and convenience store. They submitted a variance to increase the maximum width of the commercial driveway taking access from Ferry Road, which is a minor collector roadway, to allow it from 16 feet to 65 feet. And the reason that being is that the way our code is written is that that is the maximum width is 16 feet. So we don't take into account semi-truck or tractor-trailer movement. And here is an aerial of the site I'm sure you're all familiar with, of 17. Here is the zoning, which is predominantly commercial along this section of the corridor. The future land use is also commercial. And I don't believe there are any wetlands on site there. So staff finds that the variance requested, it's not the minimum variance requested. However, as mentioned, it does, this is kind of a rarity. We don't have any truck stops in Putnam County, and our code doesn't really account for those semi-truck movements. So they met 5 out of the 6 criteria. And we don't believe, staff doesn't believe the criteria imposes an undue burden upon surrounding properties. However, is concerned to maintain all stormwater on the parcel, which they've agreed to do, and we've also provided that condition. We do recommend approval of the variance with the following condition: that all stormwater runoff be directed towards the stormwater maintenance facilities on site and may not be directed or collected within roadway or county roadway drainage facilities. So that concludes my presentation. The applicant and the representatives are here, and staff's here to answer any questions as well.
Got a question, please?
Mr. Ballinger?
That is a very busy area. Every time I come in or leave Palaca, I go right by there. The state, I guess the FDOT, will determine how many trucks can come in and out of there with the traffic study that they're going to have to do. Will the permit for this be dependent upon that?
Well, I believe that is, Ferry Road is a county-maintained road, so DOT, once again, will not have any participation in the process. However, our Public Works Department will be looking at this through DRC. This will also be, I'm sure, a subject matter during the rezoning. As it stands, they probably will be required to provide a traffic study for both those roads. I know firsthand with the rezoning application, they provided that to us initially before we realized they needed a variance. But we will be requiring its traffic study, and they have provided one that will further be reviewed at Development Review Committee.
Okay, I have a question.
Have you got that? Yeah, sure.
Did that answer your question, Mr.?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, on Ferry Road, it's a very narrow little two-lane road. So coming off of 17, right there at the traffic light at Putnam Boulevard, or Putnam County Boulevard, are the trucks going to be coming in and going to Ferry Road to access, or are they going to come off of Putnam Boulevard to go into?
Based on the applicant's site plan, they will be accessing the truck stop portion from Ferry Road and exiting off on the Ferry Road.
Exiting and entering off of Ferry Road. Man, that's a semi's going to have to be a good driver to be able to turn around at that stop sign to go. Okay. That just seems like such a small little street there that semis would be
And
in
as
and
I
out of there.
mentioned, these are conceptual. We will have further eyes on the review throughout the rezoning process and through the Development Review Committee process.
So there is a zoning change request?
Correct. They've preliminarily sought this variance for access width because our code simply did not allow for it. And then once, if this is approved or denied, then they will determine whether to move forward or not with the rezoning application.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Any other questions from staff? Site visit. Okay, before we proceed, let's do a site visit. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, I think they said that the applicant or the agent was here, but there's no name on so whoever it is can come forward.
Robert Gowdy, yeah, they're right here.
For the record, please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Marwan Al-Kausi, 1900 Northwest Corporate Boulevard, Boca Raton.
Kelsey?
Yeah, Kausi.
Okay.
And if I may, just a couple of clarifications. So I think Joe was probably referencing the first site plan we had. And when we had the first hearing, zoning hearing, there was some concerns and we addressed them. So traffic will be coming from Putnam County and exiting on Ferry Road, having a U-turn internally on the site and going back.
Okay, so you're exiting off of 207 to Putnam County Boulevard?
Yes.
And then you're going to go from Putnam County Boulevard take a left into the site?
And exactly that.
And then you're coming out on Ferry Road?
Taking right, exactly. Taking right and then do a U-turn and coming back. And the U-turn will be internal to the site. I believe we have a site plan. I don't know if we can pull it quickly.
Yeah, we've received several site plans for this.
That's correct,
So
yeah.
the one we received for the variance shows both the access and exit off of Ferry, so.
Yes, and zoning committee had a couple, concern about that. So we worked with our client, readjusted to make it the safest way possible to make the loop.
Like I said, somebody's going to have to be a good semi-truck driver to make that turn from Ferry Road to Putnam Boulevard.
From Ferry to Putnam Boulevard, it's actually internal to the site. So we create a U-turn internal to the site so we don't have to use, county road for the U-turn.
Okay. All right, any other questions from staff? Or, board, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to, right at this time, is there anyone in the audience wishing to come forward and speak in favor of this application? Okay, I do have one speaker card. In opposition? So, Mr. Hefner, would you like to come forward? For the record, please state your name and address.
Name's Jerry Hafner. I live at 122 Hilty Lane in East Palatka. I also have to disclose that I do serve on another county board, but I'm here today representing only myself and some of my friends because I'm extremely distressed, disturbed, whatever, with this proposal of the plan to route trucks the way they're planned to be routed. I can tell you that what we're creating there, I would consider almost be the Bermuda Triangle. Right now, traffic is just totally congested there. And anybody that goes there and spends any period of time will see what I'm talking about. I personally have almost been run into by two highway patrolmen and one deputy sheriff at the intersection of Ferry Road and Putnam County Boulevard. I'm continually having people from Ferry Road pull out in front of me on Putnam County Boulevard. Now, I understand from what they're saying now, somehow they're going to loop internally. I'm not sure what that is. If they're looping internally, I don't understand why they need a variance. But anyway, I'm very concerned about that. I think it's going to create big problems. I can tell you that when you go, if you're coming south on Putnam County Boulevard and you get into the left turn lane to make a left turn onto Highway 17, you invariably have to move out of the way for any trucks, even pickup trucks pulling boats. You have to move out of the way to let those people make that turn. It's terrible. And then you've got the situation with everybody. Now, keep in mind, Racetrack is my favorite fueling facility. I loved it when they built there. I'm all for it being there. But I think what's being proposed is bad for the county and for the citizens. But when folks pull out of Racetrack, they have to cut across all the traffic coming Putnam County Boulevard to immediately get in that left lane if they're going to make a left turn. Creates a big problem there. All the boats, trucks pulling boats coming out of there, they have to pull over there and make that left turn. It just completely screws up the traffic patterns. Now, as far as a big truck turning right onto Putnam County Boulevard off of 17, I challenge y'all to go watch it one time. If you visit that site at a time when a semi-tractor trailer is turning right to go north on Putnam County Boulevard to pull into their proposed facility, they can't do it. You can't turn a semi-truck like that, not without running into the left turn lane going back to the south. So, with all that said, I'm totally opposed to it. I think you're doing, if you approve this variance and allow this to happen, you're doing a real disservice to the citizens of Putnam County and especially to the citizens of East Palatka who might live on Putnam County Boulevard, East River Road, or 207A. So with that, I will leave it up to you folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to come forward and speak in opposition? No one's coming forward. Okay, Mr. Kelsey, I will allow, or is this one of your crew? Okay, would you, for the record, please state your name and address?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm Tom Sullivan with the Gray Robinson Law Firm, 301 East Pine Street in Orlando, here on behalf of Racetrack. Just wanted to make a couple of notes, and while I'm talking, I don't know if it's possible if staff can kind of pull up that PowerPoint presentation that we...
I'm looking at IT right now. We actually have the staff report.
And the reason I'm asking for that is I think there's a graphic in there that does a pretty good job of showing you really what we're proposing from an access standpoint. So maybe we can try to get that pulled up and then come back over here. So what I would say and what I'd like to do is just kind of have him sort of walk through the patterns to kind of respond to the comments that were made. But I do want to say we kind of skipped over the beginning when we kind of just jumped right into the variance part of this. But we're excited about the opportunity to expand the use here. I mean, Racetrack's been a good corporate citizen in the county for a long time. We've got what we're calling a truck stop, because really doesn't fit into y'all's definition of what we're actually doing, because we don't have showers for truckers, we don't have overnight parking, that sort of thing. So it just kind of fits. We had to go through the rezoning process to increase the intensity because it just doesn't quite fit into a definition that you guys have. And then in terms of the variance, as staff explained, as you can see in the staff report, there really isn't a standard in place for the driveway width for the vehicles that we're servicing here. And these vehicles, by the way, are, as you I'm sure understand, are already on the road today. I mean, they already use the facility now. There's a demand. We're not pulling additional trucks to the area. We're just trying to service people that are already on the road, and there's a demand for it here. And that's what we're trying to meet. So, you know, we think we meet the criteria as noted in the staff report. Each of the criteria, we filled out the application. We feel like we've established that. And the in terms of the circulation and kind of the opinions that were given, I did want to have our engineer kind of go through while y'all are looking at the graphic to kind of, I think it's hard to kind of get in your head without a visual in terms of how the traffic flow would work. So can you come up and kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to add to what Tom said, the goal is not necessarily to generate more trucks, you know, it's just to make it safer. Because right now, the existing condition, you have trucks and cars sharing the same pumps. That just give like a better flow for trucks and separate them from the cars. I'm not sure if you guys can see it properly or can zoom a little bit more. But like I mentioned, the gentleman that brought the concern about the right turn to Putnam County Boulevard, that's unfortunately an existing condition. You know, trucks already take that, trucks already on the road. So really the plan is coming right on Putnam County, going up, making it left. The pumps are right there in the middle. After trucks finish fueling, take another right, and then as you can see, we're dedicating the northern part of our site for a safe U-turn and going back to Putnam County.
Okay, somebody said about a loop around inside, and so what I see here is the back part, Putnam County Boulevard, and then over here. So they're going to come in off of Putnam County Boulevard, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Make a circle and then go back out. So are you going to make a circle and go back out on Ferry Road down to Darrell, or are you going to make a circle and go Ferry Road to Putnam Boulevard?
Make a circle and go back to Putnam Boulevard. Because most of the traffic will probably coming from Highway 17.
Are you going to make a circle where, around the entire facility, or are you going to, how are you going to make a circle for the semi?
And yes, on the northern, and we already run a truck turn analysis. So on the northern part of the site, there is like a turnaround. There is part of the racetrack property that they're going to dedicate for that U-turn.
Okay, so the trucks are going to come in, Putnam, circle, and then go back out?
Yes.
To Putnam County Boulevard or Ferry Road to Putnam County Boulevard?
From Ferry Road, circle back and go back to Putnam Boulevard.
Okay. Still say there's a tight squeeze. Mr. Fisher? Sure.
Are you gonna have to redo the intersection there at Putnam County Boulevard and 17?
The only thing we're proposing that is off-site is actually a stop condition on Ferry Road coming south.
Well, because if you're coming north on 17 with a 54-foot trailer, how are you gonna make that turn?
Robert Morgado, also Bowler Engineering, 1900 Corporate Boulevard. Just wanted to clarify.
Speak.
Just wanted to clarify. We're not making, or sorry, the vehicles, the trucks wouldn't be making that existing turn back onto Putnam County Boulevard. Instead, they would be circulating through our property. Through that, if you look at the plan in front of you, there's that piece of road that loops through our property that would the turn would occur before you get to the current intersection. They would take that turn and then go onto Putnam County Boulevard. And that piece of road there within our property is enough for one of these trucks to fully be within our property and not, be on the road on either side. So they wouldn't be making that existing maneuver. Instead, we'd be cutting that short on our property. And regarding the current intersection, we'd be making that a three-way stop.
I understand that, but I've been at that intersection and I drove trucks for 30 years, and you need almost the turn lane to make that turn with a truck.
That existing turn won't be the turn that is happening. Instead, the trucks will go back through our property to make a turn back onto Putnam County. It's that second strip of white that you see cutting through our property, that's where the truck would be maneuvering through, not the current intersection.
Okay, so you're not going, okay, there's a stop sign, the road comes through a V.
Correct.
Okay.
Before
so you
that
got-
V is where,
Is where you're going to be turning and going back on Putnam County Boulevard.
correct.
So you're going to be on a small amount of time or length of, as far as Ferry Road is concerned.
Exactly. The trucks would leave the site onto Ferry Road and then immediately make a right back into the site to cut through the site and get back on Putnam County. So we'd be effectively bypassing that sharp right turn.
Okay. I mean, that's the reason I was asking, because I said you got to be a good semi driver, even a car, to be able to make that turn. Okay. That's clear, was clear as mud, but it's better now.
Madam Chairman, so I actually understand Mr. Hafner's concerns. My first opinion of this was I was thinking this would alleviate a lot of those problems, because I am one of those trucks that tries to pull in and out of there, and it's tough. I guess my question is this to alleviate some of the traffic jam problem with the boats, the trucks, the whatever, to move them back there, instead of having that kind of jammed up bottleneck, I'm gonna call it, I guess?
That's correct. So currently, both trucks and regular passenger vehicles go to the main gas station to fuel. Now the trucks would be routed back there, and also, in addition to that, that current intersection, we heard what the zoning board had to say, and that they're, currently, as existing, maybe that isn't the safest intersection. So we've also proposed a three-way stop in that area to not only alleviate some of the issues on site, but to help with the off-site traffic situation.
Hi, sorry, my name is Samantha Jones. I'm with Racetrack Corporate out of Atlanta, 200 Galleria Parkway, Suite 900. Just to add one other item, the new pumps are proposed to be high-flow diesel, so there is a distinction between the two that would get trucks even off the site even faster than by just separating the two types of vehicles.
Okay, I have a question. What kind of study was done for the number of, I'm assuming you are making this more accessible as far as semis are concerned, or bigger trucks. So what kind of study has been done to say the number of trucks that are bigger than a normal pickup truck that are going in and out of this station?
The traffic study aspect would be handled with staff during the DRC review. If they request a traffic study or vehicle analysis of that nature, then we would provide it to staff during DRC.
Okay, so right now, are there any or many semis pulling in there for gas?
Madam Chair, to my knowledge, no, I wouldn't know. The reason why we are here today is because these are high-volume diesel fuel pumps. So there's a difference between those and regular diesel pumps that, they're meant for gassing semis,
I'm
which
with you.
throws it into a whole other use category, which is why we're here, because semi-trucks and tractor-trailers will be pulling in and out of there, and it's a separate location from their actual convenience store, gas station, and regular full pumps. So the semis will be on the northern part of the parcel. But I just want to explain that's why we are here.
Okay.
And he's correct, that would be handled. We will be asking for those studies and during our development review.
Okay, so right now, there's no indication as to how many would or would not, or could be or could not go through there.
We'll be looking at that at the public hearings for the rezoning. We'll also be looking at that at the development review committee meetings, subsequent to the DRC meetings, if it gets approved. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Any other questions for all these? Okay, Mr. Hafner, I'll let you come back up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'll let you come back up normally. You say you have your say-so. Go ahead, talk to us. Jerry, okay, Give us your name again.
Jerry Hafner, 122 Hilty Lane, East Palatka. One of the most important things that's failed to be mentioned here today, unless I missed it because I wear hearing aids and I couldn't hear everything. Right along the side of that road where they're talking about coming out on the Ferry Road and making that turn directly back onto Putnam County Boulevard, that is a very popular bike trail, paved by the state. It's there for bike traffic from St. Augustine to Palatka, and it's traffic on it all the time. I've talked to some of the bikers because they're friends of mine. They have actually told me that because of the turning, not semis, but just regular turning and stuff at that intersection, that they actually choose to go on the regular road instead of riding the bike path because they're afraid of getting killed on the bike path. So I think that's not made up. That's a fact. I have a lot of good friends that are bikers that have told me that.
Okay, tell me where the bike path begins, or is it on Ferry Road? Or
Yes,
Putnam
ma'am.
Boulevard?
It
It's on
runs
Ferry.
directly beside Ferry Road. And it's got stop signs, yield signs, and everything just like a highway.
Okay, so from Ferry Road, does it go down to close to where the highway patrol station is and then cut across?
Yes, it goes around and comes back out down there. And from there, it actually runs back along the old railroad tracks and then goes back across, actually runs the old railroad tracks for quite some time. And then when you go over just north of St. Augustine, it actually crosses US 17. And there they've installed, I don't know, probably $100,000 worth of blinking lights and traffic lights and stuff for bikers to be able to stop traffic. But anyway.
You said 17, wouldn't it be 207?
Pardon me?
You said across 17.
I'm
Wouldn't
sorry.
it be 207?
207, I'm sorry, I got you going the wrong way, yeah. But again, when I look at that map up there, I just can't even imagine semis going in there, making those turns. A lot of the traffic that's coming south on Putnam County Boulevard, it almost, I'd say it's probably 50-50 splits. Half of it goes Putnam County Boulevard, the other half goes Ferry Road. And I don't know, to me, you're just creating a terribly dangerous situation. I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this juncture, I think we will close this to public and open it up for board motion and discussion.
I have something to say about this. I've got to agree with Mr. Fisher. I don't see how one of those big trucks is going to turn right off of 17 and go up to the truck stop there, or turn right on Ferry Road. I mean, those are small roads, and those are big trucks. I mean, I don't drive one, but they're big. They take a lot of room to turn. If we're going to do this, I can almost guarantee we're going to have to do major modifications to both Putnam County Boulevard and Ferry Road where it meets 17 to get those trucks in and out.
Well, one good thing about it, it's not going to be our job. So that's it, you know, if they do, it's not going to be our job, so y'all, you know, if it's approved, y'all have to figure it out. Or you make that semi into a little pickup truck. Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments?
I'm just, I don't know, I'm kind of blown away because the whole time I was viewing this as something that would make the traffic better through there instead of, because I know trying to turn in there a lot of times, I'm stopped out on 17 for who knows how long, waiting on boats to turn in or whoever, and I don't know. And until Mr. Hafner brought that up, I was thinking it was a great thing to get this traffic moved out off of there.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's kind of beside the point, but.
Okay, who's willing to offer up a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move we approve variance 23-00005 as it meets the criteria for variance as required by section 45-833 of the Putnam County Land Development Code with the one condition recommended by staff, and authorize the chair to sign the final order.
Okay. Whew. All right, we have a second, a motion and a second to approve variance 25-833 23-000005. Any other comments, discussion? All of those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? Motion carries 5-2. Good luck, and I'm sure y'all going to be very creative in how you're going to get this done. But there is a 30-day appeal process, and all of you work closely with everybody else and staff. Thank you. Okay. All right, the next case is SUP 23-000005. Let's do an ex parte communication roll call.
No.
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 Yes.
No.
No.
Okay, Mr. Perry, since Mr. Smith answered yes to the ex parte, would you like to take over?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is working, but I hope everyone can hear me. Mr. Smith, have you heard, seen, or been provided with any written materials that would affect your ability to consider and decide this matter in a fair and impartial manner?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
I didn't get this case. Okay. All right. If you're ready, Mr. Zach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is special use permit, case SUP 23-000005. The application is for a borrow area in the agriculture zoning district. The applicant is Ken Lee and Rhonda Jill Elliott. The agent is Mr. George Young, as well as Derek Wilkinson. I believe the applicant and the first agent are present today. The location is 190 Lundy Dirt Road in Palatka. The future land use designation is agriculture. The zoning district designation is agriculture. The project site is 73.57 acres. The proposed borrow area will encompass 6 acres. Maximum depths of the borrow activities will be between 12 not to exceed 25 feet. Parcel has direct access to Lundy Dirt Road. Borrow activities will avoid areas of wetlands and include a 20-foot buffer between borrow activities and wetlands. The hours of operation will be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and a reclamation plan is an artificial pond of 4.25 acres for watering cattle and other livestock. Just want to make a note that this PowerPoint presentation was drafted by another staff member who's not here today, and the 20-foot buffer between wetlands, that's incorrect. It's a minimum required of 25 foot. This is also not the appropriate aerial. Give me 1 second, please. I'm just going to pull up the maps from the staff report. Just bear with me, sorry about this. So here you are seeing the land use, the future land use map of the subject parcel. It's got an Ag 1 future land use. Here you have a site plan showing where that proposed pond is going to be, the wetland area, and then the 25-foot buffer. And here is the aerial map of that property as well. I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint and then skip through. staff member went through and indicated how all of the special use criteria has been met. Again, this is an intensive agricultural use, which is allowed in the ag zoning district and the ag future land use designation with a special use permit. The zoning district allows this use through special use permit. The use will not adversely impact nor unduly restrict the enjoyment of permitted uses in surrounding area. The special use permit, this use would not substantially diminish or impair property values in the area. Adequate access roads and on-site parking. Again, the dirt's just going to be taken, so parking's not necessary other than for those of the employees. Adequate measures have been taken to provide ingress and egress to the property that are designated in a manner to minimize traffic impacts to local roads. Screening and buffering requirements will be reviewed from the Development Review Committee and imposed prior to the issuance of a special use permit. There's not going to be any storage of hazardous materials. There may be on-site fueling of excavation equipment. And it's not proposed to adversely affect the general public health, safety, or welfare of residents in Putnam County. Again, these are the required supplemental standards for borrow areas, which will be reviewed through the Development Review Committee and ensured compliance is maintained. Continued standards. And the conclusion and recommendation here is also incorrect, but essentially, based off of what was provided to you in the staff reports, the applicant has requested a special use permit to establish a 6-acre borrow area in the agriculture zoning district. The applicant will be required to obtain a borrow area or site work permit and go through the DRC. Staff is recommending approval on this request with 4 conditions, which are similar to those that we heard at with the first case. So DRC shall review this project before a site work permit is issued. A concurrency assessment will be required by the DRC during that review process. Any necessary permits required from the St. Johns River Water Management District shall be issued prior to obtaining the site work permit, and the applicant shall provide a form of surety defined in the LDC section 45-169B8 for the reclamation of the site to be determined by the Department of Public Works prior to the issuance of the site work permit. I do apologize for the issues with this PowerPoint, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is the applicant here?
The applicant and the agent are here. Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a question for you.
I have a question. I'd like to ask Mr. Elliott, what type of trucks or size of truck is going to go down?
Okay, wait a minute. Are we addressing staff report, or are we addressing questions? This is concerning the staff report.
Okay, I'll ask the staff then. What size of trucks are going to go down that small, narrow, county-maintained road?
I don't have the narrative in front of me to see if that was identified. Perhaps the agent can elaborate on that, but at this point, we're not really caught up with who's excavating when, where, how. We're just trying to make sure that this use can be allowed on site. The DRC will capture the specifics of the size of trucks, trips per day, amount taken per day, things like that. From what I understand, this is going to be a slow burn project. But again, I'd allow the agent or the applicant to elaborate on that.
Okay, you said you understood this would be a slow?
Yeah, it's not going to be super quick, you know. It's going to be a slower excavation of the materials.
Okay, because in the staff report, it says that it will become an artificial pond to use for agricultural purposes and watering cattle. So.
Correct. That's the reclamation plan.
How long is it going to take for those cows to get water?
I don't know.
Okay, I mean, and then, okay, that was my question.
I have a question. If the sand wasn't getting hauled off of the property for small agriculture, cattle business, why I asked this, you could dig the pond with no permit at all, as long as there wasn't sand getting hauled off, correct?
That is precise, yes, sir.
And isn't the county considering some kind of exemption or something in the near future for where even this exact plan won't need a permit?
There's been some preliminary discussion in which an ag exempt operation may be able to, not have to go through the borrow area requirement in order to remove some dirt to support an agricultural use. But we have not established any standards, timelines, thresholds, anything of that nature. It's still just an idea at this point.
Okay.
Okay, to follow up with that, so if the people that own the property, and they have cows, because I'm assuming because it was fenced in and a gate, so they could not dig a pond for their cows for water and then put the dirt anywhere on their property?
I will answer it not as like a complete sentence. If you own a property and you have cow and you want to dig a pond and spread that dirt on your property, you do not need a borrow permit.
Right.
You don't need a special use permit for the pond either.
That's what that's what I was asking, that
The only reason we're here is because this dirt is leaving the site.
they want to take the dirt off site. I understand that, but I'm just saying, couldn't he dig a pond without taking the dirt off site, without having to have a permit?
We discussed that with the applicant, and they want to sell the dirt. They want to
Okay.
get rid of the dirt. There's certain factors to their property, such as the elevation, slopes, drainage issues, that spreading the dirt just wouldn't be feasible. If memory serves me correct, I sat in on the pre-application meeting about a month and a half ago, but this pond is going to be on the south end and the lowest elevation of the property. So if you spread this dirt on the property, eventually rain is just going to bring it back into the pond.
Okay, another question, is Lundy Dirt Road county maintained?
Parts of it are.
Parts, how far does it go in as far as parts? Is it halfway in, halfway out, or is it a mile? I don't know, I mean, I went down the dirt road, so I don't know. It was about, what, a mile?
So the Lundy Dirt Road, I don't know if you can see my cursor at all, but Lundy Dirt Road comes along this sort of easement layer here.
Right.
So this portion of that road are private.
Okay, so you're coming off of Lundy Road onto Lundy Dirt Road, and so the first part of that road is county maintained then?
Yes, ma'am, up near Brown's Landing.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I lived down that road for 4 years.
Well, this needs to be part of if you're going to ask the question, it's got to be part of the record, so we can hear you.
It's difficult sometimes for a truck, a regular pickup truck, and a car to pass each other on that road because of the way the trees are, and the trees and the size of the road. I just can't imagine a dump truck going down that road. That's just my opinion.
So I don't know yet that the dirt is going to be removed through Lundy Dirt Road. That's just where the property's addressed. Again, we'll go through the DRC on this and figure out access into the borrow area and where the truck traffic is going to be.
Okay. Say that again?
We don't know where the trucks are going to be exiting the property at this point. We're just trying to see if this is a right that they can have. So if this is approved, then they'll go through DRC, and then we'll have plans showing where the trucks are going to be accessing the property and how the dirt is to be removed from the site. So the Lundy Dirt Road, the only relevance it is right now is that's just the address of the site.
So there's another possibility of leaving that piece of property and coming out onto Lundy Road at a different site? Not using Lundy Dirt?
Yes.
Potentially.
They could go down to power lines. I believe the drawing showed that.
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me again. I didn't do the staff report. The person that did is absent, so.
You could come directly off of Lundy Road and go up the power lines and access it and not go down Lundy Dirt Road.
Okay, but another question, if we approve this today, and it would be determined at a later date that they can use another access, and so Lundy Dirt Road would be taken out of the equation?
Potentially, yes, ma'am, if they choose to take a different access to the site for the removal of the dirt.
But if they don't choose to take another different access, then they're going to be using Lundy Dirt Road.
And then at that point, the DRC may require the road to be widened or the trees to be trimmed out, removed.
I mean, that's a lot of ifs. Okay, that's my concerns.
Can we add a condition that Lundy Dirt Road not be used for the trucks?
You can impose any sort of reasonable conditions you'd like, sir.
Okay, give me the definition of reasonable.
Madam Chair, for the record, Joe Searley, Planning Development Services, I would recommend against imposing a condition where you can't utilize that road until we see engineered plans and drawings, because right now we're just this is a concept. We're approving the right. We're not approving the site, plan, we're not approving engineered drawings, we're approving a development right on this parcel. So without the information in front of us, I'd hate for us to make those decisions. And that's just my suggestion.
Okay. All right, any other questions from staff? All right, this time, site visit roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Okay, we have Mr. George Young as representative or agent. So would you like to come forward? Give us your name and address for the record, please. Oh, you have a,
I guess we're good evening now that we're past 5 o'clock. George Young, 222 North 3rd Street. I am the agent for the Elliots. Technically, I'm probably the agent for the Elliots and for the construction company
okay, we need to pull that mic up. Thank you.
that's going to be handling this. Just a couple of things to point out. Today was the wrong day to come in here under the guise of a borrow pit. And as Mr. Smith has already pointed out, this is one of those issues under the current land development code that seems a little it's old, might be a little out of date. The client could have considered, or did consider, let's back up. This is about providing water for cattle. The couple issues that go along with it, one is economics, which is if the sand you're digging is valuable to somebody else and they'd like to buy it, that would make sense to the homeowner or to the owner of the property, which it does, it's been tested. The second is that on this particular piece of property, it is not feasible to spread this dirt around or to place it anywhere else that would be useful. Based on the slope design of the property and other things, it probably wind up washing either back into the pond area or into the adjacent wetlands. There's a lot of places it could drain out to. Even though it's a 6-acre area, I believe my client's property is actually, the slide said 75, but it's actually a little over 66 acres. Even though we're talking about a 6-acre area, you're only talking about a 4-acre pond. The reason for that is to ensure that you have a nice gentle slope coming in from all 4 sides into the pond, so it's not a dangerous area. The issues regarding the routes in and out of the property, several have been investigated. Those haven't been determined yet because we haven't gotten to the DRC process. My clients, I think, are more than willing to work with whatever process is necessary to make it a safe extraction of vehicles. We're not talking about 60 vehicles a day. You're talking about normal, regular size, your standard size dump truck will be the vehicle that takes the dirt in and out of the property. It's been, I think Zach said slow burn. I'm not sure it's going to be a slow burn. I think my clients anticipate within a year the dig would be completed and the sand removed. Quite frankly, it could go a lot faster than that. It could be gone as quickly as 6 months, depending on where the sand is needed. As far as the dig process goes, you're talking about an agriculture area, you're talking about fenced-in field that a pond's going to go into to allow the cattle to water. That's basically what we're doing. And the reason we are here today is because under the LDC, if we remove dirt or sand from that site, you have to get a special use permit. And my clients chose not to use blacked out dump trucks in the middle of the night to remove it. They want to go through the right process. So that's why we're here. If there's any specific questions, I can probably answer them for you.
Any questions for Mr. Young?
Again, just because of the cattle business, and I did speak with the landowner. The bond, I understand, could potentially be quite expensive.
Can be.
I don't really see a reason for a bond on, I mean, if it was a bond for the road or something like that, I could understand, but a bond for their own personal property where I believe his house is on that property even too, I don't understand why that's necessary.
My understanding, and Zach, correct me if I'm wrong here, is the bond is a way to enforce that the reclamation process for a borrow pit occurs. In other words, you don't wind up with a big hole in the ground that's unsafe and what was promised doesn't happen. In this particular case, the reclamation process is the end goal, which is the agricultural pond. So does it make sense? In my opinion, no, but my client's willing to work with that. I think the Public Works Department is going to be reasonable in their ability to look at this and determine what the bond is. Now, would my client like for you to go ahead and make that a condition? We don't have to have a bond? Sure. And I'll ask for it, but that's not a deal changer here. Because of what we're after, what we're seeking. And again, the reclamation is the end goal, the whole purpose of this. There shouldn't be that much of a concern regarding that. So I think Public Works will see that. But otherwise, yes, you're right. Could wind up with a bond on a piece of property that's also the homestead property of the homeowner who's raising cattle on his property, and it could get excessive. Again, if you look at the LDC, and I'm not up here to remind everybody how old that document is or out of date it is becoming, but this is one of those times it doesn't make sense, doesn't apply. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and we're more than happy for this board to say we don't need one.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Fisher?
So is there another access in and out of there other than that road?
There can be. It may not be as accessibly friendly. There are several ways out, but initially the way out that was proposed is the most common sense based on location. And if you look at the road, you're talking about 5 miles per hour, I think, on that part of the road, and then it creeps up. I don't see there being a problem. I talked to the company that's going to dig and haul the sand, going to dig the pond and remove the sand, and they don't have any concerns about it. But if in the DRC process they determine that's not the best way to do it, then my clients will comply with that.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Earl, Mr. Balaji?
If we do approve this today, is it going to come back later for another approval once they get all the ends tied up?
I don't think that's how the process works. This is it, all right. But your approval is the use of something that's approved under the Code for Agriculture. I mean, I understand the other concerns. You have the right to address those. But most of those concerns are usually addressed and dealt with during the DRC process. Again, I'm not saying I advocate for this particular process. I think you need more specifics before it comes to you, to be honest with you. But what we're asking for is the approval of a special use permit, which is allowable under our land development code for agriculture.
So I understand from staff, I think, and clarifying both of you guys, I guess, none of our concern is the haul route at this point. It's only the pond, correct?
Yes.
I refer you to your own counsel for that. I'm not going to step in on him, on his purview.
Thank you, Mr. Young. What the purpose of this board is and what the purpose of Mr. Young, I think he's trying to explain to you is that your question is, does the application meet the criteria for the special use project? As Mr. Young and other people have mentioned to us tonight, that a lot of the heavy lifting is done at the Development Review Committee. And But yet I can understand where Mr. Young is coming from, because it's easy to think that we must make all the decisions, when actually the only decision is, does the application meet the criteria for the special use permit?
And I wanted him to tell you that because I don't want you to get mad at me. But having sat in that chair, I think I mentioned that a few times before.
Yes, you did. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Young? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, at this time, is there anyone in the audience wishing to come forward and speak in favor of this application? No one's coming forward. Anyone wishing to come forward in opposition? No one's coming forward. So at this time, we will close the meeting to the public and open it up for board discussion and motion. Or motion and discussion, whichever one goes first.
Madam Chair, I move we accept special use permit, case number, oh goodness, SUP 23-000005, as the request meets the criteria for the special use permit as required by Section 45-1083 of Putnam County Land Development Code, with the conditions as recommended by staff, and authorize the chair to sign the final order.
What did she say?
She said,
Approve or?
well, I think she
I
said,
missed that.
okay, she made a motion to approve.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, that was, he didn't hear what you said.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve SUP 23-000005. Any further discussion?
I would still like to strike I'm hung up on the bond, but I can't find the number of it now, which one it is. If there was a way we could strike I would like to add and strike number 4, which is the bond. I don't see a purpose for it on that property.
Question, do we have the authority not to authorize the bond? I thought that was a given.
I will say this, that this is like a pond for cattle. The only reason we're here is because our code states, and Mr. Young was correct, that it is antiquated verbiage, states that if the soils are taken off-site, it's considered a borrow pit. That's the only reason we're here. We have been advised by administration and our commissioners to look at this verbiage and make potential changes. So if you condition it to not have a surety bond, I believe you have that power to do so. And I will actually leave that up to council. But I believe that if we believe that it's a de minimis use and we don't need a surety bond, and it's in the best interest of the county, then I believe that you guys have that choice to make.
So, Mr. Smith, you are making a motion or amendment to it to scratch number 4?
Yes.
To eliminate condition number 4? That's got to be okay, you make an amendment?
Make an amendment to scratch number 4, the surety bond.
Just making sure that we have the authority to do that since it's the surety bond. Nobody's going to answer?
Well, like I said, I would deflect to our legal counsel.
I'm a lawyer. I'm happy to chime in and argue if you want to hear that part.
I have no problems, I'm just making sure that, if that's a condition, then we can scratch. If we can eliminate it, then so be it.
I believe that it's a requirement in our land development code, so I believe it may be required. However, I believe this board has the power to remove
Okay.
that condition
All right.
or that requirement if they choose so. Like I said, it can be appealed in 30 days, so.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Smith's motion to eliminate condition number 4. We have a motion. Anybody have a second?
Second it.
All right, we have a second to approve or second to scratch number 4. So all of those, okay? All opposed for the amendment? Okay, so motion carries to scratch 5-2 to condition number 4. So now back to the original motion to approve SUP 23-000005. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, there is a 30-day appeal process, so whatever we did here today, if it's not kosher, I'm sure somebody will find out. All right, thank you very much. For some reason, I don't have the last case.
You don't have the last one?
I don't have a, I don't know.
It's the,
Okay, our last case is variance 23-000007. Before we hear the staff report, let's do a site visit roll call. I'm sorry, ex parte communication site visit call.
No. No.
No.
No.
I don't know what happened to this one.
no.
No.
Okay, who answered yes to the ex parte? Oh,
Oh, that
yeah, ex parte.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. So many roll calls, it's like. Okay, all right, so we're ready. Okay, I think you need to introduce yourself since you're new to the staff.
For the record, Leslie Sims, Planning and Development Services. I am the intern for the department. The presentation today is variance VAR 23-000007. The applicant is Brian Goff. It is at 207 Hess Road in Crescent City. The future land use is rural residential, and the zoning district is residential to family. The subject parcel is about 0.39 acres, and it's located in DeCausey's recorded subdivision, recorded in June of 1891. The parcel has R2 zoning designation, which requires 75-foot frontage and a minimum of 7,500 square feet per the lot, which the parcel does meet. The parcel was given a notice of violation by code enforcement for a carport encroaching into the side and front setbacks. This did have a permit, but due to zoning staff error, it had to be caught by the code department. The current footers that are laid encroach into the 10-foot required corner side setback to 3 feet, and the required 25-foot front setback to 6 feet. It encroaches into the clear visibility triangle, and the permit cannot be effectively pulled until a variance is granted. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow the carport to exist in its current configuration to protect their boats. The structure is about 840 square feet. The applicant states that there's an existing drain field to the west of the parcel, which is pushing the carport into the front setback. Staff believes the carport could have been pushed further back if permits were initially pulled correctly. The carport cannot move south due to an existing oak tree that the applicant hopes to preserve. The structure encroaches into the 25 by 25 feet visibility triangle as defined by LDC 45-714. However, letters of support from neighbors say the structure does not impact visibility from the easement Helen Place. Here is our aerial map of the property outlined in blue. The zoning R2 as stated. The future land use, rural residential. And the wetlands map, the wetlands do not seem to encroach on the property. Here we have submitted photos from the view of Hess Road. As you can see, the footers are laid due to the initial permit being pulled incorrectly. Here is a photo from Helen Place, the area we fear that it encroaches visibility upon, and a photo of the drain field to show it can't move further back. The applicant meets about 3 out of the 6 criteria for the variance, proving there's a substantial hardship. The hardships are not self-imposed, although the variance may impede upon visibility from the easement Helen Place. Strict application of the code may deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by others in the R2 zoning. A variance is authorized due to circumstances unique to the applicant's property itself and not shared by other property owners in the area. There exists an undue and unnecessary hardship created by the zoning regulations. Staff is recommending approval with the following condition: that the applicant obtains all permits required for construction of the accessory structure. Questions?
Do we have questions for staff? Okay, no questions? Okay, thank you. All right, let's do a site visit roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have the applicant and owner, Brian, is it Goff? Would you like to come forward, please? For the record, please state your name and address.
Brian Goff, 207 Hess Road, Georgetown. Thank you for having me here today. Originally, there was a metal building, an old dilapidated metal building that was where this one. We had to tear it down because it was falling down, basically. So we were getting rid of that, and ever since I've moved into this place, I've done nothing but try to make the property better. And that's my goal here too, is by getting rid of that old building that was really unsafe. And actually, we got rid of bushes in a tree that made that 25 triangle less visible for traffic, or for drivers to see traffic, than it is now. I have pictures of that. So all I'm trying to do is protect my vehicles. I mean, a hurricane came through here last year, and we don't have anything for our vehicles and my boat, and so all I'm trying to do is get this metal building for that, and I appreciate y'all's time.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. At this time, is anyone else in the audience wishing to come forward and speak in favor of this application? No one's coming forward. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak in opposition? Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. Were you sworn in? Okay, before you can speak, you have to be sworn in. So if you would like to speak. Okay, are you speaking in favor? Okay, please come forward to the podium. For the record, state your name and address.
Shirley Warren, 206 Hess Road.
Okay.
Crescent City.
Okay, tell us what you...
There is no, you can pull out of Helen, and the only thing that's blocking the view is the mailbox, all that line of mailboxes. And, you know, they've, like they said, they've cleared it, and it's clean, a lot cleaner than what it was. And I don't, you know, we have people pulling up there, we live across the road from them. They'll pull up there to them mailboxes on our side of the road and get out and leave their car running and go over there to them mailboxes. If there's a problem, it's that right there, them mailboxes. But you know, they're trying to improve the neighborhood, and let them do it, please.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward and speak in favor? Okay, at this time, anyone wishing to come and speak in opposition? Okay, no one's coming forward, so at this time, we close it to the public and open it up for board motion and discussion.
Madam Chairman, before I make a motion, I don't think it was brought up, but there was at least 3 or 4 letters in favor of this in our packet that wasn't brought out in the meeting.
That is correct. I believe, I recall seeing it in the PowerPoint or it being brought up, but just for the record, yes, there were several letters in support.
Okay, in support? Okay.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve variance 23-00007 as it meets the criteria for a variance as required by section 45-833 of the Putnam County Land Development Code with a condition recommended by staff, and authorize the chair to sign the final order.
Second.
We have a second, we have a motion and second to approve variance 23-000007. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, motion carries 7-0. There is a 30-day appeal process, so work closely with staff, and good luck in your building. Okay, let me see what else we got. Do what? Minutes. Okay, do we have any old business before the board? Any new business? Okay, we have minutes for April 19th, 2023. Has everybody had a chance to read them?
Move they be approved as read.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the minutes of April 19th, 2023. All of those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Mark wasn't here. He can't
Mark
vote.
wasn't here, he can't vote. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you. Oof.